Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's podcast. Um, got a really excited one for you today. Chrystal Hood. Chrystal, I've known for a while now on the innate well-being coaching course, and Chrystal has been a transformation coach for quite some time now, and has recently discovered the three principles and is taking that to her clients. So, without further ado, let me introduce Chrystal Hood. Chrystal, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Like you said, I have been I am a certified transformative coach. I came to the principles about early of 2022. So I've been in the principles now for about 3 years, and it has made a tremendous difference, not only in myself, but in the way that I can help clients.
Okay, so tell us about so for folks watching this that aren't familiar with the three principles, can you just quickly cover what those three principles are and how they're a bit different from what you've been doing prior to this in transformation coaching?
So the three principles are mind, thought, and consciousness. Um, really, I focus a lot on the inside out living instead of the outside in. Most people think that we live outside in, that things outside of us can actually affect us. When in reality, it is just our thinking, it is just a thought. So that takes us to the principle of thought. Thoughts are formless. They're just a thought. They do nothing until you add your thinking to it, your conscious awareness to the thought. A lot of us tend to grab and hold on to negative thoughts, past experiences, which are just memories carried in time that you just baggage that you keep along with you that you don't need anymore. Sometimes, at some point in your life, they served you well and probably served a purpose, whether that purpose was protection or whatever. Um, but it's much different now because it's not in your past. And before, everybody has a story. We all have stories, and in the past is not where you're going to find your answers. So that's the biggest transformation with how I help my clients now is to show them that being in the now, being present with a clear mind and not a bunch of thinking allows for so much more space and capacity to hear your own inner wisdom. It's innate, it's there, you were born with it. And it makes a world of difference just to have that pause between thought, which comes again, like I said, with a clear mind, that pause between thought, because that pause is like instrumental. It keeps you from reacting and sometimes overreacting,
Yeah.
um, flying off the handle, saying things you don't mean, lashing out, getting hysterical over certain situations. That space is an amazing space that I help to draw out what's already there for my clients. It's already inside.
Right.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's great, Crystal. I find it, because I know you have, and so have I been through this kind of experience of really understanding now what the mind and what thoughts really are. And as you say, you through all of the accumulation of all the experiences that we've ever had in our past creates this image, this ego kind of image that we have. And that image, that ego creates thoughts, and most of the time, completely unnecessary, illusionary thoughts. But it's so strong, it's been so programmed into us that we believe them, totally believe them. And
Absolutely.
most of them are not true. Somebody may say, I'm an anxious person. No, you think you are an anxious person. That doesn't mean that you are an anxious person. And just that concept of I'm not my thoughts is so transformative. You know,
Absolutely.
do you remember, Chrystal, the first time you actually experienced standing back from thinking? Like, do you remember what that was? Because I remember it clearly because it transformed me completely. Do you remember your experience?
I I'm gonna skip to a very powerful experience after my shift in thinking. And I was on vacation, and it was my first day of vacation. I was sitting at the beach. My sister and my cousin were there with me, but they went for a walk. Um, and I was sitting there by myself, private beach, nobody's around. It was middle of the week. Um, and I coughed, thinking nothing of it, covered my mouth and coughed. And then I noticed that my hand was covered in blood.
Well,
So in the past, I I would have immediately gone straight into my thinking,
of course.
catastrophizing. Is this the end? Oh, what is happening? Instead, I got up because I did continue to cough some. I got up, went over to the ocean, finished coughing the blood, and used the ocean water to clean myself up. And then I did the weirdest thing. I went back to my beach chair and I sat down, very calm. And the only thought that came to my head was, I'll just wait for them to get back. And it's that moment, even now, just still looking back on it, was so powerful in showing me that I had dropped my thinking. I wasn't listening to there was no inner chatter going on saying, oh my gosh, freak out. You need to be freaking out. What's going on? Why is this happening? I promise you the old me would have, I don't even know. I probably would have ran,
Me too. Me
you
too.
know, but I didn't. It is this most wonderful, and I'm going to still use strange experience just because when my sister and my cousin walked back up, I said, we need to go. And they said, why? Because we had just gotten to the beach. And I let them know what had just happened. And they're like, they started freaking out. Oh my God, are you okay? Do you want to, what do you want us to do? I said, let's just go back to the house. Just go back to the house and let me just call a doctor and see what I should do. So, I mean, that right there in itself,
Yeah.
it was, I hate to call it a beautiful moment, but it
I
was a
mean,
beautiful moment.
yeah.
Despite the circumstances, it was an
I mean, and
amazing
Crystal, if you can, if you're able to do that for such what would seem like such a serious situation that most people, the majority of people, me included, would lose my mind over that, literally. If you could do that for that situation, can then could you do it for, a red light? Can you do it for a slow car driving in front of you? Could you do it for a bad email from someone at work? Or, of course. And that is such proof because it's so powerful, that story, that you're able to step back from the thought and be very peaceful. And not just that, but then you kind of knew what to do. Get home, call for an ambulance, get to the hospital. Like you just knew what to do. If you'd have
absolutely,
just kind of run around like crazy, screaming and stuff, you could have made it worse. So thinking not
absolutely.
only kind of, gets you all wound up, but also could actually direct you to do something that is not ideal in the situation.
So, yeah, and that's a great point there, Pete. That's a fabulous point because it could have. It could have led into so much more if I had fed into any type of thinking there, into any type of negative thinking. I could have done more harm.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I won't know, thankfully. Um, because it was just the lack of feeding negative thinking. And it wasn't even choice, it was wisdom, pure wisdom. And that was my original point there, was I truly believe it was pure wisdom that kept me safe, if that makes sense.
It does completely. Yeah, it does. Um, and because, this wisdom this is the same wisdom that, that makes your heart beat. It's the same wisdom that, turns a seed into a 200-foot oak. Who are we? We don't even know how that happens, right? Like you
Right,
turn soil into a tree. It's beyond science. It's beyond what we know, our understanding, right?
right,
That is what's inside of us. That's what, a cut on your hand, that's why that will heal in time by itself. And the mind is exactly the same way. Whatever we're going through in our minds, our natural state is pristine. It's just we stop ourselves from healing sometimes because we think too much, and that's easier said than done. But if you don't fight the thoughts and just let them go, because they're there for a reason, to your point, right? They're there to help you. That your mind thinks it's protecting you by coming up with these what if scenarios and these, but most of the time it's only doing that based on all this programming that we've had. And who knows if that was right? Right, what is true is this internal wisdom that we have, that when we clear our minds and we stand back from all these thoughts, something else shines through, like it did for you on a beach.
absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, Krista, in terms of like, so you've coached for a while. For those watching that are maybe potentially looking for any kind of coaching or assistance, what do you think three principles enables people to do? Like, why is it different? How would someone benefit from going through a three principles coaching with you?
They benefit from the fact that we don't rehash the past. Like you said, a cut on your hand. Um, we don't break that cut open and pour salt into it.
Right.
We don't take off the scab and pour salt into it and bring up pain, emotions. Emotions, and emotions are fine, but there's no need to relive certain emotions in the now that happened 10 minutes ago, 10 days ago, 10 years ago. It, it's just, in my opinion, it's a waste of energy and time, because right now is what you have.
Yeah.
That's it. So being able to have a clear mind, it opens up that space where your true wisdom that you're born with, it allows it to speak to you instead of ego. Kind of
Yeah.
like you brought up before. I like to tell my clients, ego is a screamer, okay?
Yeah.
Ego is loud and it screams. And if we don't quiet it down, you're not going to hear the whisper of the wisdom,
Yeah.
because wisdom is a whisper. It's not loud. And you just inside, the difference. It is a much different feeling. We're all looking for a feeling inside of us.
Yeah.
And that feeling of our innate wisdom, you just know. And when you feel it. So I definitely focus on the now, and not reliving. And it's not to say that, I don't care about what happened in the past, because I absolutely do care about my clients. I just want them to see that there is a better way.
Yeah.
There is a way without ripping off that scab and making it hurt.
Yeah.
There's a way to deal with your feelings or your misunderstandings that you're having without feeling bad.
Yeah.
To have a good conversation, and a healthy conversation that leaves you feeling good and it helps you draw out your own wisdom. And when my clients do, it's magical. I mean, I don't know what other kind of word to use, because you literally can see their whole
Yeah.
physiology change.
Yeah.
I mean, their face softens. It sounds silly, but
Hey,
it's
Chrystal,
I've
I've
seen it.
seen, I've seen it. I've seen it in clients too, and you can see, we kind of use this analogy of like a speedometer in a car, and you can actually see the needle going down and they're kind of relaxing. And as they start to go from 200 miles an hour to 20 miles an hour, you can see this complete change. And that is this wisdom, this innate wisdom kind of starting to show itself to them, because every one of us has it. It's just part of being a human being. Everybody has it, but it's been obscured by, by programming, right? So,
Right.
when I talk to my clients, I don't to same as to your point, Chrystal, I don't really talk about the content of the thoughts, whether it's, some trauma from the past or some, horrible expectation of the future. I don't, if the client wants to talk about it, sure, but you don't need to. You talk about
Right.
the nature of thought. Why do we do this? Because when you understand it, it's like anything in life. When you understand it, like when you understand how a car works, when you understand what the accelerator pedal is and what the steering wheel does, then you can drive a car. So when you understand the nature of thought, then when any thought comes in, not just specifically about a trauma, but anything, like I say, a red light during the day, when you think, oh,
Mhm.
I wish that was a green light, that's just a thought. There's no logic, there's no realism behind that at all. It's just this screaming ego that, as you say, Crystal, inside going, that is not what I wanted. I will therefore scream about it. Even if
Right.
it's so trivial, it makes no difference to your day at all. It will scream anyway. And when you sit back and just say, yep, off you go, that's fine. Just you go do that. That's fine. Don't fight it. Just let it go. As you would with a child, let it go.
Right.
Then it just gets easier. Everything gets easier.
It absolutely does. It really does.
Yeah.
Because, I was that person sometimes.
Oh yeah, me too.
Getting out at the red light. How dare you make
Yeah,
me late?
why?
As
Like
if
it could tell that I was coming and changed on purpose. I can have this voice actually saying to me in the past, it knew you were coming and it changed on purpose. How illogical,
absolutely.
how insane is that?
But
But for a split second, you believe it. And that's enough to get you wound up for a good 60, 20, 120 seconds or something. There's just
right.
why, and then you get annoyed at your partner next to you or something for no
Mhm.
reason other than the light was the wrong color.
Right. Right. I mean, that's exactly what I was gonna say too. It's as if we really truly believe that light purposely turned red
Yeah,
just to mess with us.
yeah. Yeah. So that's a great indication of how unreal these thoughts are. So a thought
Mhm.
that comes through that, you get an email from your boss saying, let's meet tomorrow morning. That thought going through your head, I'm going to be fired. I'm going to be fired tomorrow with no justification whatsoever, right? You may have been promoted the day before, right? But now I'm going to get fired. That is just as illogical as a traffic light turning red at the wrong time. And so it goes. I would say, Crystal, for 98% of our thoughts.
Absolutely.
Unnecessary illusions that they're there for a reason. They're there like, oh, I want this to happen. So you're trying to make the outside world fit with your internal expectations. That's that outside in way, right? And to your
Right.
point at the top of the conversation, it's an inside out world. It's not just our opinion, it's an inside out. Everything that we experience is in our minds. Everything.
That's right. That's right. Nothing happens. Nothing happens without thought. And that brings back
Yeah.
to thought. I mean, nothing, and not to, contradict myself, but if you think about that for just a second, just a little second, nothing happens without thought. Your heart beating, like you were talking about, our breathing, all of that stuff. We're not consciously thinking about that, but unconsciously, mind, which is another principle, is taking care of that for us.
Yeah.
We don't have to feed it. We don't have to say, hey, heart, it's time to beat. Remember to beat again. Do it again. So yeah, and I want to go back to the email, like getting an email from your boss. Oh my gosh. You know how many people they just automatically go worst case scenario. And my sister used to say to me, you used to, because before my transformation, she used to say to me all the time when I would have situations like that, where she would say, are you catastrophizing in your head
Yeah.
again?
Yeah.
And it's exactly what I was doing. I was bringing up the craziest scenarios that made sense in my head.
Yeah.
All bad though. Not one would be a good one, Pete.
Yeah.
They were all bad. Like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah. You never catastrophize about winning the lottery, do you? Really? You
no.
know?
And
Um,
why don't we?
I know, and you tend to find that, like I say, like by far the majority of the things that you would catastrophize or worry about in the future never happen, and also if they do, they're never quite as bad as you think they're going to be. You
No,
find some way of dealing with it, because if you hadn't have dealt with it, you wouldn't be here talking to me right now,
that's right.
right? So you've dealt with it. So for everybody, you just kind of get through it and deal with it, and that's this innate wisdom that someone's watching you back. There is a broader mind that's watching your back. So
Absolutely.
there is no, I know it sounds easy to say there's no need to worry. Sometimes there is need to worry, but don't let it control your life completely. Worrying can be healthy, but
Yes.
in moderation, And most people in society today, it's not in moderation. It's gone
Mhm.
crazy. People worry over nothing.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it makes and that worrying stuff, it kind of reinforces itself until you're in a spiral, and then that leads to depression and burnout and chronic stress and anxiety, and again, even all those things, Chrystal, are just labels that we give
Absolutely.
to a misunderstanding of thought. It really
Absolutely.
is. There's no I am a depressed person. No, I think I am feeling depressed. That's a
Absolutely.
beautiful way of saying it, because you have power.
Yeah, and I like the way that you rephrased that there, because that's another thing that I do like to say to my clients, and sometimes to my children or even my husband. Watch your I am statements.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
stop telling
yeah,
yourself that you are something. And because I say that because most of the time, and I think you'll agree with this, the I am, like you said, the I am statements, they always gear towards the negative,
yeah,
you know, I- which it is human nature. I mean, it is for like 98%, 99% of human beings out there. It's human. It was my human nature too, to just automatically, this can't be good,
yeah, yeah.
automatically. And now I
It's,
see.
I mean, I think, Krista, in terms of just from my experience in helping people using this approach, I've been in therapy before, traditional therapy, and it did go back to the past. It sounds ironic, but it went back to my mother. I don't know why, because I thought I had a good relationship with my mother. I walked out of therapy thinking, oh, geez, maybe I didn't. It didn't really work for me. I've had coaching before, and it's helped, but it's not been transformative. This is the three principles is the only approach that I've experienced, not just experienced it for myself, but seen it in other people. I mean, it made me become a coach. It made me want to be a coach. And we know
Yeah,
there are many therapists and psychiatrists around the world that have converted their modality now to
yeah,
this. So it
yeah.
is, it's genuinely transformative. So I'm so glad that we've kind of discovered it. And I'm so glad that we can talk like this and hopefully kind of spread the word about how effective this is.
Absolutely.
Chrystal, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, is there a way to get in touch if they're interested in working with you with the three principles?
They can always email me,
Okay. I
and
will
I'm
put.
gonna
I can put the email, your contact details in the comments in the YouTube video,
absolutely.
so
I
people
also
can get in touch if they want to. And yeah, and
absolutely.
yeah, I look forward to working with you more. And
Well, same here, Pete. It's always a
and
joy.
I'm really excited by it. Is there any final comments for the folks watching?
Um, you know, I had one, but it went away. So that tells me it's not important.
It wasn't meant to be. I think we've covered
That's right.
covered quite a lot anyway. And
Mhm.
look, guys who you're out there listening to this, if you do have a concern or a challenge in your life, um, talk to one of us. There's many three principal coaches now out there, and if you relax into it and really absorb what's being said, um, it can it can change your life. It really can. So, Chrystal, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank
Wish you the
you.
very best. I'm sure we'll keep in touch, and yeah, I'll see you soon.
Thank you,
All
Pete.
right, take care.
Take care.